This next lesson is 3.5, multiplying using regrouping. Now we talked about multiplying using regrouping when we were doing multiplication with a 1-digit number times a 2, 3, or 4-digit number. Now we're going to be doing multiplication with regrouping with 2-digit times 2-digit multiplication, and it's a little bit different. We have a few extra steps that we need to keep in mind when we're doing this type of multiplication. Let's go ahead and take a look at our steps that we need to follow when we're multiplying with regrouping. Here we have a problem 16 times 27, and our steps are written off to the side. We're going to start by writing our problem vertically. So I'm going to have 16 times 27. Now I'm going to start by multiplying my ones place times my ones place. That's what step number 1 tells me to do. So I'm going to multiply 7 times 6. 7 times 6 is going to give me 42. I'm going to put my 2 down and carry my tens, so carry my 4. Step number 2 says multiply my ones place times my tens place. So I'm going to multiply my 7 in my ones place times my 1 in my tens place. 7 times 1 gives me 7, plus 4 more gives me 11. All right. Now, I'm done with my ones place, so I'm done with this 7. My next step is to put a placeholder down. So I need to put something underneath my ones place in my product to hold that place. The reason why I need to place something here is because I'm starting to multiply by my tens. And all of my answers that I'm going to get need to be in my tens place. In order for me to automatically place them in my tens place, which is my second place value, it helps for me to have a placeholder here so I don't forget that I need to have a 0 there or an empty spot. So I'm going to start on, I did step number 2. Step number 3, I put my placeholder. Step number 4 is multiply the tens place times the ones place. So I'm going to multiply my 2 in my tens place times my 1 place on top, my 6. 2 times 6 gives me 12. I'm going to put my 2 from 12 in my tens place in the bottom of my answer, and then I'm going to carry my 1. Now I'm going to multiply my tens place times my tens place. So my 2 in my tens place on the bottom times my tens place on the top. 2 times 1 is 2, and then I need to add that 1 more here. Notice how I crossed out the 4 from my earlier multiplication so I don't get confused. 2 times 1 gives me 2, plus 1 more gives me 3. My final step that's not written over in my steps is to add my 2 pieces. 2 plus my placeholder, which is a 0, gives me 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 1 plus 3 is 4. When I'm multiplying with regrouping, when I'm doing a 2-digit number times a 2-digit number, the same steps apply that I learned earlier for my ones place, so for my 7 in this case. When I move on to my next place value, I put my placeholder in, and then I started my tens place, and I start a new set of answers. So these answers right here, these are for my ones. So this is when I was multiplying times 7. These answers over here, these were from my tens when I was multiplying 16 times 2. Okay, and then I add those 2 pieces. Let's take a look at another problem. Here I have 36 times 45, and I'm going to multiply using regrouping. After I multiply with regrouping, I'm going to check my work using a different way, a different method. So I'm going to use the area model to check my work. To set up my problem with regrouping, I need to put my numbers one on top of the other. So I'm going to have 36 on top and my 45 underneath. So I have my problem set up vertically, and I'm going to multiply. I need to always start with my ones place. So I'm going to start with 5 times 6. That gives me 30. I put my 0 and I carry my 3. Then I'm going to multiply 5 times 3 times my tens place. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 3 more gives me 18. Now, I'm going to move on to my tens, and when I'm moving on to my tens, my first step is going to be to put my placeholder. Don't forget your placeholder. I'm then going to multiply my 4 in my tens place times my 6 in my ones place. 4 times 6 gives me 24. I put my 4. I cross out what I had carried before, and I'm going to put my 2. Because I'm carrying a 2. 24, I need to carry my 20. Now I'm going to multiply my tens place times my tens place. So 4 times 3 gives me 12, plus 2 more gives me 14. I'm going to bring that down. My final step is going to be to add these two parts. 0 plus 0 is 0. 8 plus 4 is going to be 12. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6. And I bring down my 1. So 1,620 is my product. I'm going to check this using my area model. So here's my area model all set up. I'm going to cross those zeros out, bring them down. 4 times 3 is 12. Cross that 0 down, bring it down. 4 times 6 is 24. Cross that 0 down, bring it down. 5 times 3 is 15. And then I have a 30. I'm going to add down. And then I'm going to add down again. And I get the same product no matter which way I choose. So if I'm using area model, multiplication with regrouping, I'm getting the same product of 1,620. Go ahead and give this next problem a shot. I want you to try to multiply using regrouping. So again, it doesn't matter which number goes on top, you'll get the same product. Unit property tells us so. Then check your work with a different method. Choose partial products or the area model. Let's go ahead and start with the regrouping model on our right. We're going to multiply our ones place first. So we're going to do that by multiplying our 3 times our 7, which gives me 21, and I carry my 2. Then I'm going to multiply my ones place times my tens place. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 more gives me 20. I'm going to move on to my tens place, but first thing I need to do is place my placeholder. My tens place, I'm going to multiply my 1 times my 7, which gives me 7. Cross out what I carried up, and then 1 times 6 gives me 6. I'm going to go ahead, my final step is to add these two pieces, and I get a product of 871. I want to make sure I check my work, so I'm going to go ahead and use the area model to do that. I'm going to cross these two zeros out, place them down here, and I get 600. Here I get 180, 70, and 21. I'm going to add each of my pieces. I get 670 when I add down, and I get 201 when I add down here, and then I'm going to add my two pieces together. So when I do that, I get a final product of 871, which is the same as I have over with my regrouping model. So I know I did my work correctly. All right, let's do another problem. In this problem, you have 73 times 24. So go ahead and set it up. I want you to multiply using regrouping and then multiply using another method to make sure you're getting the same answer. We're going to go ahead and get started with regrouping to check our work. So I'm going to start with my ones place. 4 times 3 gives me 12. I put my 2 and carry my tens place. Then I'm going to multiply my ones place times my tens place. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 1 more is 29. Then I'm going to go ahead and move on to my tens place. So I start with my placeholder. I'm going to multiply 2 times 3, and that's going to give me 6. Then 2 times 7 gives me 14. I'm going to add those two pieces together, and I end up with a product of 1,752. I'm going to check my work using my area model. So I'm going to cross out these two zeros, place them right down here. 7 times 2 is 14. Cross out that 0, bring it down, and I get a 6. This 0, bring it down, and I have 280, and then I have 12. I'm going to add to get my partial products. And then I'm going to add my two pieces together to find my final product. And I end up with a product of 1,752. And it's a good thing I checked my work. Now, you didn't see it on our video, but I ended up making a mistake when I was doing my regrouping method. And the only way I would have known about that mistake is if I would have checked my work using the area model. I found my mistake and I redid the video. So again, very important to check your work. Everybody makes mistakes. We're learning from our mistakes, and that's the important part. Here's a word problem for us. It says the toy company sells 48-piece puzzles in a box. There are 31 puzzle boxes on the shelf. How many puzzle pieces are there on the shelf? go ahead and solve this problem. Figure out what we have to do and solve it. Our problem is asking us for how many puzzle pieces are on the shelf. There are 48 pieces in a box and there are 31 boxes. So in this problem, we're going to be multiplying 48 times 31. You could multiply that any way you'd like. I'm going to check my work using my regrouping and my area model just to make sure I am checking and double checking my work. I'm going to start over here with my regrouping. So 1 times 8 gives me 8. 1 times 4 gives me 4. Then I'm going to start in my tens place. I have to have my placeholder first. 3 times 8 is 24. Carry my 2. And then 3 times 4 is 12, plus 2 more gives me 14. So I'm going to add those two pieces together. And I get a product of 1,488. Now I can also estimate my product to see if I'm in the right area. So if I were to round these numbers, to estimate I have to round and then multiply. 48 would round to 50 and 31 would round to 30. So my estimate would get me at 1,500, which is pretty close to the product that I got. So I'm pretty confident I'm on the right track, but I'm going to check using my area model as well. I always have my multiplication problems inside of my boxes just to make sure that I don't miss a step. It's an extra step for you, but it can save you in the end. Make sure you don't skip something. So I found those partial products. I'm going to go ahead and add those partial products. And then I have to add these two pieces together. And I get 1,488, which is the same as I got for my regrouping. So I can be pretty confident in those answers and the fact that they're close to my estimate. So my question is asking me how many puzzle pieces are there on the shelf. There are 1,488 puzzle pieces. So again, our final product is 1,488 puzzle pieces. Okay, last problem. Let's take a look at this last word problem. Machine A can label 11 bottles in 1 minute. Machine B can label 13 bottles in 1 minute. How many bottles can both machines label in 15 minutes? This is an interesting problem. Think about it. Think about everything we would do to solve this problem. We have two different machines, and then I want to know about both of them. Give this problem a chance. Okay, machine A can label 11 bottles in a minute. So I want to focus on machine A, and then I'm going to focus on machine B over here. 11 bottles in 1 minute, and I want to know how many it can label in 15. So if A can do 11 in 1 minute, how many can it do in 15? So that's going to be my multiplication problem there. Then machine B can do 13 bottles in 1 minute, and I want to know how many that can do in 15 minutes. So I'm going to be multiplying 13 times 15. Then I want to know, my problem's asking me how many can both machines do, which means I'm going to end up adding these two pieces together. So there's machine A and machine B. Those are how I find out how many bottles that they can label. And then I'm going to add those two products. So first thing I need to do is multiply in order to figure out, well, how many can machine A do in 15 and how many can machine B do in 15. So I'm going to use my regrouping method to multiply these, since that's the strategy I'm working on. 1 times 1 is 1, and I put down my placeholder. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 1 is 1. I add these two pieces. It's nice when my numbers are little, and I end up with a product of 165 for machine A. And I'm going to go ahead and do machine B over here. So I have 13 times 15. Doesn't matter if you do 13 times 15 or 15 times 13. 5 times 3 is 15. Carry my 1. 1 times 5 is 5, plus 1 more is 6. I'm going to put my placeholder. Then I'm going to be multiplying 1 times 3, that gets me 3, and 1 times 1 is 1. I add these two pieces, and it shows me that machine B can label 195 bottles in 15 minutes. And my final step is to add these two products together. So 165 plus 195, I'm going to go ahead and put those one on top of the other so I don't make a mistake when I am doing my addition. Carry this one, and my machine in total can label 360 bottles in 15 minutes. That's pretty good, 360 bottles in 15 minutes. That was a two-step problem. That one was a little bit tricky. We needed to find how many machine A could do, how many machine B could do, and then we needed to figure out how many can both machines do. Okay, that's our lesson for today, multiplication with regrouping. Tomorrow you will get to choose which method you would like to use for multiplication. See you then.